regardless of my age, I did the work. I
Yeah.
went to school. I got the degree. I met all the requirements. I passed my exam. I'm a certified physician assistant.
Yeah.
So it's like I have a medical license. Yeah, I'm young, but I think a lot of medical providers start off young
Of course.
anyway.
Yeah.
And eventually you get old, and then you've been practicing for 20 years.
Yeah.
So it was super hard at first because I think, and I think this could also be related to just Black people in general, but we have like imposter syndrome where we're kind of conditioned to think that we can't do these things because these are not things we're seeing like other people do, or
Right.
because society is telling us that Black people aren't educated and Black people can't do this and they can't do that. And so it was very intimidating, but honestly, my family helped me a lot with just kind of being positive. My husband was very positive. Like, people in my circle always encouraged me. And then I just had to be like, girl, you got to boss up.
Yeah,
Like,
you're a
get your
boss.
stuff together. You got this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Play me some pimping, man.
This the coldest podcast you'll ever hear. The way we coming with it, people witnessing greatness. Be a part of the journey. I would say it's perfect timing, but it's God's timing. We locked in a time capsule with this one. We got timeless topics. Guess what? I'm your mother's favorite host, your little brother's OG. I go by the name of Armand Lindsay, but the neighborhood call me Big P. I want to welcome y'all to Big Boss Talk, Season 2, The Rebirth. Let's ride, and welcome to a Black Man Thing.
What's up, everybody, man? We got a double interview day, man. I'm sitting down with another guest on a good Sunday in the January. This guest it's family. It's different. I haven't had family. I haven't had too much family on the podcast, and this is my first like real family that's on the podcast, and I'm super excited to talk to her just because we haven't talked in a while, and we just we see each other like we just talked about through social media and just keeping up with each other. It's things, it's relationships where you have, and you just like, I know they doing good. We'll greet each other when we see each other, but it's just like it's love from afar. And I love, this is like one of my cousins I grew up with, pretty much, down there on Porter Road. If you don't know what Porter Road is at, it's just, I'm sorry, if you know, but, that's just, how we connect, and it's like family. And so I'm going to introduce, I have Brittany Thompson Wilkes, age 28. Her career is a physician associate. She went to college. Her college degree was medical. She went to the Medical University of South Carolina, and she has a Master's of Physician Assistant Studies. I think that's the degree, Master's of Physician Assistant Studies. Sorry. Years in the profession, less than a year, about 9 months. So she's very new. She's probably getting some of that raw, uncut experience where it's just like, oh, I didn't know this was how it went. And so now she's, getting through it and just adapting. But, Brittany, say what's up to the podcast.
Hi, everybody. Like you said, I'm Brittany. So yes, very new to the profession. But I'm so happy to be here. And like you said, we're cousins. So that's even more exciting to see my cousin doing big things. So
yeah,
nice to be here.
Thank you, man. Like I said, it's awesome to have you, but this wouldn't be Big Boss Talk if we didn't go through Two Truths and a Lie. So I'm gonna let you know, my interview before this, I lost. She got me, and I was so upset because I was 7-2, and then she got me at 7-3. I'm still above 500, but cuz I'm gonna have to take you out unless you can get me with this Two Truths and a Lie. I'm gonna have to take you out. I'm gonna have to get this lie and be like, yeah, got you. So let's hear it. What you got?
Let's see if you can win. So, all right. I went to college on a full ride, undergrad on a full ride.
Okay.
Recently relocated to Washington, D.C., and I am allergic to shrimp.
What?
I know you're like, what the?
Yeah, this is okay. The first one, I believe. I believe that. When you went to undergrad, full ride, I'm with that. So that's number one. Number two, you live in Washington, D.C. And then number three, you're allergic to shrimp. So I'm going to tell you where you got me at. And the conversation before, this is how I know what's the lie. So the conversation before was, I can't tell you where I live because that's going to be part of my two truths and a lie. And I was like, okay, cool. But she was like, I'll tell you after. But she just said, I live in Washington, D.C. So I feel like that's not really telling me after. I think that's really the lie. And she might be allergic to shrimp. Yeah. See. Yeah, people just give it away. Good. People just give it away. I'm back on track. 8-3.
Oh God! So I tried when you asked me that. I was just like, "Oh, that's part of my little plot."
Like,
but no, I do not live in Washington D.C. I actually I don't live in Raleigh, but it's close to Raleigh. It's like 20 minutes outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. So
okay, got you. That's cool. Yeah, I got you. I'm glad I got you. But
you did. You got me.
We did. But we're gonna hop right into it. So we talk about physician associate. So I'm gonna start at the college first, right? So you went to the Medical University of South Carolina. Where'd you do? Is that where you did your undergrad at?
So no, and I should have added that, and that was my fault. So undergrad, I actually went to Claflin University in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Ooh. Shout out HBCUs. So that's where I went for undergrad, and that's where I had a full ride. Okay. So then after that, I went to Charleston, South Carolina, to the Medical University of South Carolina.
Oh, that's hard. Okay, what's crazy is I just talked to somebody that went to Bethune-Cookman, so I'm getting a lot of HBCU people on here. And we was talking, I was like, these HBCU schools, man, it's so much pride. You can't talk about their school without somebody saying something.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Look, HBCU. Okay. But we went to Claflin, and I talked to, and then that's who else I talked. I talked to Hannah Hart. And she went to Claflin. Y'all went there to get, I mean, obviously you older.
Yeah, she's a year younger than me, I think. Yeah. But we all from Rock Hill. Exactly. So we grew up together. Me and Hannah and Maya used to go to the same church. So
yeah. So, but tell us about your choice in going to Claflin. Did you go to Claflin because it was a full ride, or did you want to go to an HBCU? Like, tell us about your.
Okay. So I definitely always wanted to go to a HBCU. So growing up, Drumline was that movie. And I know that's whack, but
whack at all.
Saw that movie. Right. I saw that movie and I was like, dang, I really want to go to HBCU.
Yeah.
So I originally wanted to go to like Howard, Bethune-Cookman, but my mom was just like, that's a little too far for you to be on your own.
Yeah.
So we settled for in-state.
Okay.
And then when I originally applied for Claflin, they actually gave me a partial scholarship to start with. So I'm like, okay, cool, partial scholarship, I'll go. And then when I was there, I finished my first semester with a 4.0 GPA. So then I got a full ride for the rest of the way.
Oh, that's
hard. Blessed.
Yeah, blessed. But that was hard work. You know what I'm saying? Like that was hard work to finish.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, listen, not a lot of freshmen that come in and finish with a 4.0. I'm gonna tell you now, I ain't do bad, but I was just like, I was kind of wilding a little bit in the beginning. I was just like, I'm gonna sleep in for this class, and I'm gonna, just trying to figure out the autonomy of just being by myself and just doing classes. But kudos to you to finish out with that 4.0. How hard was it to get a 4.0 the first semester?
It really wasn't that hard. I mean, that first semester, because honestly, the classes weren't that bad. Okay. Now, 4.0 after that, no.
Okay, cool. So, did Claflin? So, with the with everything, being a physician's associate, is that something that you always wanted to do, or what was your original plan? Going into college and what you wanted to be.
So I went into college. I did know that I wanted to be like a science major. So I majored in biology, minor in chemistry, which chemistry wasn't really part of the plan, but the biology was. Yeah. I did not know I wanted to be a PA because I just didn't know anything about it. So I kind of went in, I picked the major, kind of went through, And I just was like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. So by the time I got into my third year of college, I found out about being a physician assistant. So it was called a physician assistant. They just recently changed the name to physician associate. But I found out about the career, did a little bit of research. I was like, okay, I think I might can do this.
Right.
And then from there, I kind of worked towards getting to it. So I didn't even realize I wanted to do it until I was about to graduate, pretty much.
So what drew your attention to being a physician associate?
So the biggest thing for me is like, okay, you already know how families are, Black families. They always you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, they want you to be big time. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I do want to go to med school. But then when I really looked at it, how long it takes to go through med school, all that good stuff, I just was like, I don't know if I'm willing to like devote my life to this. Yeah. So when I found out about PA, right after you graduate with a bachelor's degree, you only have to do like 2 years, well, a little over 2 years in the program, and then you kind of just go straight into the job force. Right. So I was like, that sounds more like me. And then you can switch professions, or specialties. Okay. So I didn't have to always just work in family medicine. I could switch to orthopedics or whatever the specialty is. But because I'm a very indecisive person, I get very bored easily. Yeah. So I was just like, I cannot dedicate 8 years of my life to being a medical doctor. And then what if I hated it? So that's really what drew me to it.
Got you. We can tell we related because I'm indecisive too. Like I can't be like, for me, like I get bored. And what I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy what I'm doing, but if I'm doing the same thing or constantly seeing the same situations every day, it's like, all right, I got to switch it up because I just feel like I'm just getting too much of a routine, right? I don't want to be a routine person. And nothing is wrong with routines. I just think for me personally, it's not for me. And it sounds like, for you wanted to have that option, right? Not saying that you want to switch around, but the option is there to say, hey, if I wanted to go to the orthopedics or whatever, I can do that with a physician associate.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Why you feel like Black parents, why do you think parents in general want you to be like doctors, lawyers? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't never consider who you are as a person.
Right. And honestly, I think it's just a generation thing. Generationally, we don't come from a lot of money, and I don't mean that like a disrespectful way, because I know there are Black people that are born into money or their family is very wealthy, but the average Black person is not born into money. Right. So I feel like for Black families, when you say, "Oh, my daughter's a doctor," people are like, "Oh, shoot, your daughter a doctor? Okay, you know what I'm saying? It's the status that comes with it. It's not just the money, but it's just kind of like, my daughter's a doctor, so I obviously did great as a parent. Right. Because she's doing her thing or he's doing his thing or, whatever it is. So I really kind of feel like it's a bragging rights kind of thing. But then, it is a very accomplishing thing to go to med school or to be a lawyer or, to be on TV or, whatever you choose to do. So I think that's why Black families are like that.
So parents like to look at us like they report card. Like, look at this. This is what look at us.
Yes.
We great in A, B, C. But I think each and everybody, got their own, purpose and calling. I think it's not. We shouldn't look at each other as far as status. Just for me personally, I hope.
Right.
When I get older and have kids, I don't want them to be I don't want to look at them as a status. I just want to be able to support them in whatever avenue they want to go into.
Right.
I think that's the most important thing. But you make a good point. Good point. So with you knew going in you want to do something with biology. You ran into the physician associate and you liked it because of the option of, hey, I don't have to devote so much time of my life to to be a doctor, especially if I know that's not what I really want to do.
Right.
Was it? What about? Tell me what do you do as a physician's associate, right? So talk me through as if I'm I'm low level, just the basics of what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Well, I'll kind of start from just like education wise. What do you have to do? So, you do have to get a 4-year degree. It doesn't necessarily have to be in biology, it actually can be in anything. But you just have to have the prerequisites before you get into like a PA program or a physician associate program. So, my particular program was in Charleston. It was a 27-month program. The first year was didactic, which just means you're like in the classroom learning. That second year is clinical, where you're out in the field and you work in different specialties to kind of figure out, okay, what specialty works for you. And then after that, you have to sit for an exam. And, if you pass the exam, you're a certified physician assistant or physician associate. So as far as what I do, so currently right now, I work in urgent care, which is, I know a lot of people know what urgent care is because that's where most people go, especially like if you don't want to go to the ER and you don't have a primary care doctor. So I work in urgent care in Raleigh. And so on a day-to-day basis, basically what I do is, get my morning started, patients check in. It could be for any random, thing that they have going on. I go in, I see them. I don't usually do it, but I have like a medical assistant. So she does the vital signs, checking the temperature, the weight, blood pressure. Then I go in to talk to the patient, see what's going on with them. We try to figure out how to solve whatever's happening. And then I, treat them, send them on their way. And I mean, that's kind of how urgent care is a lot more fast paced. So it's like ER, but not as like severe. So if you're having a heart attack, you're not going to come to the urgent care. You need to go to the hospital. But like, let's just say, for instance, you slash your finger open and you need stitches. You come in, I stitch you up, give you some antibiotics, send you on your way. It's like a quicker version of ER.
Got you. So I'm just trying to give people a representation of who you would be. So like, obviously I've been to urgent care a couple of times, and the only time I've been to urgent care is like I had this huge knee pain, right? It came out of nowhere. I was just like, man, my knee is hurting. Like it started to swell. I couldn't walk. I couldn't bend it. I don't know what's going on. But I didn't want to go. This is how black I am. I didn't want to go to the emergency room because I knew how much it was going to cost. So I went. So I went to urgent care. I was like, look, I'm gonna pay this little $50, $20 deductible to see what's going on, and then so you are the person that take care of the people that come into urgent care.
Yep, exactly. So a lot of times, like you said, most people don't want to go to the ER because the bill is ridiculous. And plus everything is not for the ER. Right. So it's like you come into the urgent care. So, I see anything from if somebody needs stitches, if they need an x-ray, if they're just having like a urinary tract infection and they need to be treated for that. I don't do as much like emergent things. Like I can do an EKG. So for those who don't know what that is, if you're having any heart issues and you need your heart assessed, we can hook you up to an EKG and kind of see like your heartbeat, what's going on with you. Ultimately, the goal of urgent care is to assess whether this is life or death. So if it's death, we're sending you to the ER. Point blank. But if it's something that can be managed in an urgent care, we'll take care of it. So we do vaccinations. If you got bitten by a dog, we can give you like a tetanus shot. We can give you antibiotics. Anything of that nature would be what I would see. And in my particular urgent care, I'm the only provider that's on shift at that time. So, I'm running the show pretty much from the time I clock in to the time I clock out. I'm the one that everybody's seeing, and I'm treating and diagnosing patients.
That's crazy. That's a lot of responsibility.
Right.
Do you know how much responsibility that is, though? Like, you dealing with people's health as far as like, if I got an issue, I'm looking at you like, man, look, what's wrong with my elbow real quick? Like, and you got to do that.
I'm going to be honest. Right. I'm going to be honest. Like, I am amazed sometimes because I literally go to work and I'm like, I'm really out here adulting. Like, I'm a whole grown person.
Bro, yes. Like, yeah, I couldn't, like, that type of feel to me is like, I look at people, because those are the type of feels where it's like, obviously you make a mistake, but you don't have the opportunity to really make a mistake. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Yeah, that's so true.
It's a lot of pressure, right? And I'm pretty sure you have your ways where you deal with your day-to-day, stresses at work or whatever the case may have you. But knowing, you're super young, right? You started in your career, you said like 9 months ago, so almost a little less than a year. What was that adjustment like going into a place where you might be younger than a lot of the staff, but you're also in a place of power, where you have to tell people what to do, and you have to, what was that like, that transition?
So, oh my God, it was so intimidating. Like, I'm gonna be honest. It's so, just to like give some background, I graduated PA school in 2020, or July of 2020, which was obviously around the pandemic. So I was actually out of work for 10 months before I could even start practicing as a PA. So you already know that was intimidating because I had been out of the game for 10 months. I mean, that's a long time. And then just starting, like, I was super intimidated, but I think the biggest thing is, I just had to like encourage myself, study, do what I needed to do, because at the end of the day, regardless of my age, I did the work. I went to school, I got the degree, I met all the requirements, I passed my exam, I'm a certified physician assistant. So it's like I have a medical license. Yeah, I'm young, but I think a lot of medical providers start off young anyway. And eventually you get old, and then you've been practicing for 20 years, So it was super hard at first, because I think this could also be related to just Black people in general, but we have like imposter syndrome, where we're kind of conditioned to think that we can't do these things because these are not things we're seeing like other people do, or because society is telling us that Black people aren't educated and Black people can't do this and they can't do that. And so it was very intimidating, but honestly, my family helped me a lot with just kind of being positive. My husband was very positive. Like, people in my circle always encouraged me. And then I just had to be like, girl, you got to boss up. Like,
you're
get your stuff together. You got this.
Man, that's dope for real. Sometimes you gotta talk to yourself like that. You gotta speak power over yourself. Seriously. And you gotta be like, look, bro, you here for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And that's important. Some people don't have that power to do that, right? And I think that's something that you definitely gotta have no matter what you do. Just because sometimes you feel like your confidence sometimes can go down. Maybe you're having a bad week and you be like, dang, like, do I know what I'm doing? But it's like, no, you know what you're doing. You had a bad week. It's not the end all be all. It's just like, you got to get back in routine, get back in rhythm, and go out there and do your thing.
Right.
So, going into that particular role, was everybody welcoming? Like, what was one of those, I guess, what played a major part in you fitting in your position now, right? To be able to have that confidence. Did you have some type of mentor? Did you have somebody that, that just took you maybe under their wing, or you just had somebody that was like, hey, I got you. Let's do this. I'm with you all the way. Like, did you have anybody like that?
So, unfortunately, I did not. I really wish I did. I would have loved to have had like a mentor that really like took me under their wing, but it was just so hard to find people that look like me, but then also people who are willing to kind of give it the time of day. Because if you're not in the medical field, having outside people come in and like shadow, volunteer, stuff like that, it can be a liability. So I think a lot of people weren't as welcoming. So honestly, it was just a day by day kind of thing. Like, even now still, because I am still freshly new, like we talked about, it's only been 9 months me practicing in urgent care.
Right.
But even still, some days I'm just kind of like, dang, like, what? I'm having a bad day. Like, I'm not feeling it, but it's just like, I don't know. Like I said, my family helped strengthen me a lot. There is now more stuff on social media that's comforting, as far as like people are actually tracking their journeys now. Like, you doing this podcast is a prime example. Like, somebody is in PA school right now. Like, I'm looking at this podcast to try to figure out, what do I need to do for my next step? So that's been helpful, because a lot of times I will Google the mess out of something.
Yeah, you got to.
So I Googled to see what other people's experiences were. And as I've become, like, as I got into this career, I started to meet more Black PAs, men and women. So now I'm in contact with them now.
Yeah.
Because we tend to find each other, once we get into our careers.
Yeah.
But it really was a day-to-day process. I just had to, I don't know. I don't even have an answer really, like an official answer. I just had to just take it step by step, try to figure things out, and just kind of fake it till you make it kind of confidence. Like, I am a little intimidated. This is a lot, but God wouldn't have brought me this far.
Yeah, and I ain't gonna let you see that. So don't even worry about it.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where you be like, he gonna cry in the car. You like, yeah, I'm gonna cry in the car, but you ain't gonna see it. So it's like,
exactly.
But that's awesome, man. Like, I think what just, everything that you're saying is like, it just shows that you have a very strong leadership quality. And what I mean by that is to be able to, obviously step in a place like that and just show, I know you can, obviously you want to be vulnerable to your peers. You want to be vulnerable and say, look, I don't know everything, right? I do need help every once in a while. But when it's crunch time, who you can call to make the call is going to be me, right? Who's going to come in and step in is going to be me. So I think what you're doing every single day is just showing true leadership qualities, whether you realize it or not, to have an urgent care facility, look at you and be able to follow your lead is pretty awesome in itself, no matter how you get it done. I think it'll be great just to see, if you think about what you're doing to, be a leader in your role and just document that in itself would be something to look back and be like, wow, that's awesome. Because somebody that is going to be a physician associate, they're probably going to need, like, how do I go in and just, I don't want to seem like I know everything or X, Y, and Z. I do want to be vulnerable and you want to, win. I'm not saying you're going to win everybody's heart, but it's just you want to win trust. You want them to respect you and trust you at the end of the day. So that's pretty cool. But I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to go back to where 10 months out of 10 months out of the field. What were you doing? Like, what? Because obviously, when you go to school, you looking like, all right, cool. I done graduated. Now it's time to get my feet in the door. Like, I need to start making money ASAP. Like, I need it. But I've witnessed hiatuses where the pandemic has just shut everything down and you can't get a job to save your life. It's not that you're not doing anything correct. It's just that everybody's on a hiring freeze and it's beyond your control. What was those 10 months? What was those 10 months like for you?
Oh my God. If I could cuss right now, I would. Those 10 months were, I don't want to say it was the hardest in my life because I done been through worse than that. But those 10 months were just so humbling. Like, I, first of all, was going crazy out of my mind because I don't like to not make money.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Yeah. But I had a hard time. I really did. Just like you said, it was more so of a hiring freeze. There wasn't really much we could do about it. Also being a new grad, sometimes it benefits you and sometimes it doesn't. So being a new grad, you don't have a lot of experience. And with COVID going on, a lot of people wanted to hire those who had years of experience because we were dealing with something that we've never dealt with before. So I did a lot of just focusing on myself for the 10 months. I tried to work out. I tried to just mentally prepare myself. I tried to study a little bit. Even though I wasn't in school anymore, I still need to try to keep current with what was going on. Yeah. And then I applied for like my license and just like little stuff to kind of get myself prepared so that when I got the call to go, baby, I was ready.
Yeah.
So, but those 10 months, God, I wouldn't wish that on anybody because it is discouraging. Because at one point I was just like, well, am I even, meant to be a PA? Because it shouldn't be this hard. It's a medical field. Like we need, people in the medical field 24/7. So it was definitely tough, but I think it helped me grow.
Mhm.
Now that I'm looking back on it, because at the time I just was like, what the,
Yeah,
like, what is this?
right.
But looking back on it, I do think it helped me to grow, and it helped me kind of get to where I am right now, because those 10 months, I just had to be patient, which is
Yeah.
something I am not good at.
Yeah.
So it really just taught me to be patient and just kind of trust the process and just wait for the right thing to come. And I mean, eventually it did.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know, like I said, I've witnessed this happen to the people. Like I've been a reciprocant end of my spouse having the same issue, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you dealt with obviously the work side of it, but I'm pretty sure it was more of a personal side too, as far because you're a very independent lady. You're very self-driven. Was it difficult for you to obviously if you're not making money, or I don't know if you did like a little side job for maybe for 10 months, but if you're not making money, was it difficult to depend on maybe like your significant other, or you know what I'm saying? Like, did you have any?
Yeah. It definitely was. So for like a brief moment, I did do DoorDash on the
Okay.
side, because I was trying to get some tips.
Yeah.
But depending on others, that is something I truly struggle with. So at the time that all this was happening, I was not married yet.
Okay.
So my husband was just my fiance.
Gotcha.
We were actually not living together because we moved back home. So we were living together, then we moved back home because of the pandemic. So we were in separate households. And you know how Black families are. You can't live together, sleep together if you ain't married. So I had to depend on him. I had to depend on my family. And I'm going to be honest, like those 10 months, I really isolated myself from a lot of people, because I felt like, why would anybody want to hang out with me if I can't do anything? I mean, and that wasn't the case, because my friends and my family are amazing, but that was just my thought process.
Right.
Like if I literally can't make money, or if I can't, I'm just not in the headspace to even like entertain people. So it was very hard for me to depend on other people, but I think my family and my husband, did a good job of just being like, all right, you tripping, stop acting like that. Let's go get some food, or let's go, do whatever to try to kind of get me out of my funk, basically.
Man, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you had that support, Cass. And the only reason I highlight that is because pandemic or not, just even when people graduate college doesn't mean you automatically jump into your field of choice, right? So we have to start to not settle, but we have to humble ourselves to be like, okay, let me take a step back and let me do something while I start to apply for these jobs, right? It's not that you're sitting and waiting, but it's more or less like, I know it's not my fault. It's nothing I can do. I can't help that when I apply, nobody, they're not calling me back for an interview, or they're not wanting to sit down with me right now. It's not your fault. And I think that kind of messes with people's mental a lot coming out of college, being fresh, because all these years you've been told, like, go to school, get your degree. When you get a degree, you get a good job. But that's not a promise. That's just more of a, you know what I'm saying? That's just more of a goal that, a lot of parents just want you to achieve. And it is important to have that degree because it gets you in places that, not having one may not get you in. But I really want to speak on that mental part. It's just, it's okay. And I know sometimes people may feel embarrassed. They may feel ashamed, just because they may have personal things. But know that waiting and knowing that God's timing is the only time that really matters, right? They always say,
most definitely.
They always tell you, tell God, tell God your plans. He'll toss them back in your face and laugh, or whatever it is. So it's just like, kudos to you for having that endurance, having the support team to wait those 10 months and just say, hey, when my number's called, I'm gonna be ready. And if you can tell us, what was that interview process like, right? So that's another heavy thing where people have that anxiety of, I'm not a good, some people are not good test takers, and some people look at interviews as like a test, so what was the interview process like for being a physician associate? Like, what questions do they ask? How can you prepare? Could you give us an insight on that?
Yeah, so the interview process actually wasn't that bad. And I don't know if it was just because the jobs that I was applying for,
Okay.
but they weren't so hardcore
Mm-hmm.
where they were just like grilling you 24/7. I did have one interview that was like that.
Yeah.
And ultimately I didn't choose the job because I was just like, they were doing way too much for the interview process. But I think the biggest thing is for anybody that's going into being a PA and interviewing, try to find something that you're good at. And what I mean by that is when you're in school, like you do rotation, so you do learn some things along the way. So whether that's, when you go into a patient's room and you're doing their history of their present illness. So that's just them telling you why they came in. Like if you're very good at documentation, sell yourself on that point. If you're very good at, reading lab reports or lab results, x-rays, anything like that, I would definitely use those as like tips or just things that makes yourself stand out, basically is what I'm saying. So as far as the interview process, I feel like it was how any job would be. You come in, of course, you have to be dressed up in business attire. And they really just ask you like, why should we hire you? Yeah. Or what makes you, what sets you apart from others? So like the basic questions that they ask you at an interview, but you just have to make yourself stand out. Even being a new grad, like you have to try to sell yourself as best as you can. Most of the interviews you would come in, they'll ask you the questions, they'll give you a tour. So I would say when you do your interviews, also just be engaged and make sure you're asking the company questions about their values, about their day-to-day. What would a day-to-day for you look like as a PA working for them? Like those type of questions. Yeah. But the interview process, I think, is a lot easier than going to school. So
okay.
So I think once you get to the interview process, you might be nervous, but it's really not that bad. You just have to. You can literally Google questions and kind of just practice, what to say.
Yeah. Seems like the etiquette part is really one of the most important, right? So when you talked about, asking them the right questions and all that kind of stuff, that's really etiquette of interviewing, just making sure that you're engaged,
right?
Which is good to hear. And I think what you also highlighted really is just being able to sell yourself. How do you stand out? What was one of the things that you told them, to make yourself stand out? Like, what do you pride yourself on? What did you say?
I believe the thing I said the most, because I kind of switched it up depending on where I was going, but I think one of the things I definitely said was that I was relatable.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest thing is because you can go to school and you can learn how to treat and diagnose patients fine. It's in the books. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have bedside manner is what we would call it. Yeah. So if a patient comes in and you can't treat them like a human being and you can't, really talk to them and, regardless of age, race, whatever it is, you pretty much have failed as a provider, in my personal opinion. So that's one thing that I highlighted when I did interviews was like, I'm a relatable person. I know how it feels not to have health care. I know how it feels to have a family member that is sick and can't afford their medication. You know what I'm saying? Like I've lived these things. So I'm like, when it comes to patients, I shouldn't have any issues because I can relate to the struggles and the pains that they feel because I've gone through that either myself personally or a family member. So that was something that I sold myself on. And I don't know if that's like textbook or not, but it got me into a lot of doors because they were like, oh, so she didn't even say anything out the book. Yeah. She said something like that was actually on a personal level. Yeah. So y'all can use that.
Hey, I'm about to say, I'll hire you right now. You can relate. Right. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, that's true though. Like, I think a tip, a life hack is really, I think a lot of employers, now, when you think about it, they're tired of hearing the generic textbook answers, right? Because you can give a textbook answer. That doesn't mean you're going to really, do the job to the best of your ability, right? Some people just know how to fake the funk. And if you can fake the funk long enough just to get into the door, and then once you're in there, you kind of just get sloppy or whatever. Right. I think that's where the employer is kind of like, nah, I want to see some authenticity. And I think obviously you being able to relate to what it's like to not have the healthcare and not have the means to just live a decent life. You know what I'm saying? Like healthcare,
Right.
everybody needs that just to be able to to get the right medication, to be able to afford their medication, to live a longer life. It's crazy that we live through that type of issue. But I mean, what you just
Right.
said, that's a gem. So listen, for the podcast, y'all listen, Brittany just gave y'all the secret to getting a job right there. You gotta sell yourself. You gotta sell yourself. Cool. And then I guess once you broke into your industry, was it everything you expected it to be? Like, is being a physician associate everything you thought it was gonna be?
Heck no. So, and I don't mean that in like a bad way,
Right.
guys. So I just mean that, I don't know, you just feel like once you get the degree and get the job, you think it's going to be one way, and it's just completely not.
Yeah.
Of course, I have hard days, but then there are just days where I'm at work and I'm just like, dang, I'm really doing this. Like, I really like going to work and treating patients and doing all this stuff. It's definitely harder than I thought it would be. I knew it was going to be hard, but just being a new grad, and not having, so like, just for instance, when you go off to be a medical doctor, you have to do a residency after you graduate school. So you do a residency for 4 or 5 years. It just depends on what specialty.
Yeah.
When you're going to be a physician assistant or a physician associate, you don't have to actually do a residency. You just go straight into the job force. Okay. So we learn basically hands-on. Now, you can do some programs where they'll teach you, but mostly you're doing hands-on. So, for me, I was like, okay, well, even though I didn't do a residency, I did have rotations. I've done a lot of this stuff before. I thought it would be easier. And it actually wasn't, because what you learn in the books is not the same thing that you're actually doing out there in the field, because patients are not like textbooks. They're different. They're complicated. They're, whatever. Yeah. So it's definitely harder than I anticipated, but hard in a good way, And then I didn't realize that PAs were so talented and so like multifaceted, where they can do, like, if I don't want to do clinical stuff anymore, I can go off and be an administrative or like a CEO of a big pharma company, or whatever it is. PAs are out here doing like way more than just working in the urgent care. Right. So I think that's been like a pleasant surprise, because I'm like, oh, well, I don't have to just stick with this forever. Right. I can actually be a PA and teach students. Or I can go off and, work in a hospital system and be like over a department of physician assistants, So it's been a nice like reality check, I guess.
That's dope. That is dope. So I talked to Hannah, and she said, I talked about the resources and everything that Claflin offered, and just being able to find your niche, right? I know PA, you got so many different avenues, but I guess if you could look 5 to 10 years down the road, where do you see yourself being, or what is your niche? Is it teaching? Is it CEO or something? Where do you see your niche? And the only reason why I ask is because people really, kids sometimes, like I always say, you don't know what you don't know. And I want to, with the podcast, I want it to be a solution to fix this problem of, well, I started doing this and I figured out I had to do this and I didn't like it. So now I'm having to rethink and recourse my whole life. And sometimes that's hard to do, especially if you're out on your own. You don't have a lot of the stability to be like, okay, I'm going to take a hiatus from this job and try to figure out what I want to do. And I want to alleviate the process. For me, I feel like alleviating the process of saying, I'm just trying to alleviate the problem of, I want people to find what they love and what they're passionate about first, versus saying, what they teach us growing up. You want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, right? But if you didn't know that a PA could be a teacher, or you didn't know a PA could be, a CEO of some company, you would have just been a PA and been in urgent care, right? But nobody told you that this is what you can do unless you started figuring things out. So my question is, how do you tell somebody? How do you allow someone to figure out what they're passionate about? Or I mean, what advice do you have to give someone to say like, hey, how do you find your passion, right? If that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm in on a round.
Yeah, no, that makes plenty of sense. No, you're fine. So, you know what? I think the first way to start to figure out what your passion is just to start doing things that you love to do.
Okay.
And that can be simple. I mean, it can be like, if you like reading books, read a book. You know what I'm saying? If you like dancing, go dance. You know, I feel like when you are happy and when you're doing things that you love, your passions tend to fall in your lap, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So as you're pursuing your happiness, things just kind of just hit you and you're like, well, I actually like doing this and I think I might can make a career out of this.
Right.
Or, you know, whatever the case may be. But I think the biggest thing is doing things that make you happy, putting yourself out there, because I think that's probably one of the hardest things is putting yourself out there. The cliche of networking and all that stuff, but that stuff actually works. I mean, talking to people and letting them know you're trying to figure out this, that, and the third, and getting advice from other people. Good advice, of course, because all advice ain't good advice. Yeah. But I think just starting with things that you love to do, it will lead you to that. Because like I would say medicine is my passion, but I feel like I have other passions out there that are undiscovered.
Okay.
But I stumbled upon medicine because I went to school and, I put myself out there. There were programs out there that I had to apply for to get the guidance that I needed. And I gave it a chance. I just did stuff and it eventually led me to PA, even though that's not really what I started off trying to do. So I think just putting yourself out there, like I said, and just doing things that make you happy will eventually lead you to where you should be. Yeah. But then you also have to remember you do have to put in work. I think that's where people kind of fail a little bit with passions, is they think that, oh, it's my passion, so I don't have to work hard at it. Right. No, boo. You gotta work hard. Yeah. I mean, it's part of it. Yeah. It's part of it. Like I wish I could say that I was the smartest person in the world, and when I went to school, I made all A's and blah, blah, blah. No, there were nights where I was like, "Ooh, Lord, if I can just get this C, Lord Jesus, please, so I can test this test." Yeah. Like you have to work at your passion. So you have to do a little bit of both. Be happy, but still work hard for it.
For sure, man. That's awesome, man. Because I look up to you, man, as like a big cousin. I see you doing your thing, and I always look at people, and I'm like, I try to take a little bit from somebody and just say, if they still going, I know I can continue to go. And I think for me, I don't know, I feel like my passion has always just been helping people. Like I love just helping people. It may not be in a form of physical labor, right? But it could be more. I could say something that could trigger something in your mind, and you'd be like, "Dang, that really helped me push the envelope forward." And I think just having this podcast and having people like you and just family to be able to come on and share their experience, it allows people to understand that you're not alone. You're not the feelings or the thoughts that you have. You're not the only one to have them, and it's normal.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with you, right? And you just have to accept it. But like you made a great point, working hard. You know what I'm saying? Working hard for what you want, because obviously I like to talk, I like the podcast, but the behind the scenes work of scheduling the interviews, editing, cutting things up, and then working a full-time job, like it's not easy. I'm sure everything you're doing right now is not easy. Going to work, taking care of people, because what they don't tell you is I think what you were trying to say is not the textbook, right? The textbook you can read and analyze, but there's a people element that everybody don't get. And so when you say I'm relatable, that relatability is showing that you got the people element that most people just think because I'm textbook smart, you can come in and be a PA. But no, what makes the best doctors and for me is they really deeply care about you, and then they also know what they're talking about at the same time. So
right.
Kudos to you. You got the whole package, and it's only gonna get better from here because you're only a year in, and it's like you got a whole lifetime to just figure out, get better, and do things that you really love to do. So I can't wait to watch. My last, just to push the conversation forward to the tail end, one of my last questions is just, was it all about the money for you? To be honest, because some people say, I just want to make a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, with money, making money is good. Like, you don't work hard to not make a decent amount of money. But if it's only money focused, right, then I think that's the issue. But for you, when you first started, initially, when picking a career, was it about the money for you?
No, it was not about the money. And I know people are going to be like, oh, she's just saying that because she on podcast. No, it actually wasn't. Because, I knew that being a PA, you could make, pretty good.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, ain't no money worth all the frustration sometimes this job entails. And if I wanted to make a whole bunch of money, I would have been like a CEO and did business or some stuff.
Yeah.
Or I got my own, or started my own business. Like, it's definitely not about the money. The money is definitely a perk.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like in the future I would do like little side projects or whatever, but this is what I wanted to do. And I'm getting paid for it, but at the end of the day, it's not about the money for me.
Cool. That's awesome, man. Well, look, y'all heard it from him. It's not all about the money. But if you want to get in this profession for the money, just make sure that you are willing to go through everything that it entails, meaning being personal, taking care of people's needs. You can't just talk to people any kind of way. You got to be professional. So just be prepared. And it's crazy to see that you enjoy that. Like, I look at our family, and I just think, like, we got a lot of people that's in the health profession, and it just seems like naturally, like, a lot of the women in our family, and sometimes the men, are very catering, and they provide that people element. And I don't know, it's just nice to see that, we got a family full of caring people that really enjoy what they do for work. And not everybody is in the health profession, but I do see a lot of the women in our family in the health profession, like Sean, like my mom.
Right, yeah.
I'm not sure, was your mom in the health?
So she does work she used to work in a hospital. Now she works in, it's like a radiology center where they do like X-rays, CTs, ultrasounds. She actually works front desk though. So she's not like back there as one of the techs, but she's actually one of the reasons why I even like got into hospital stuff, because I used to go like see her on her lunch breaks and stuff. And we used to spend time at the hospital. So that was one of the reasons why I even kind of found out about, I can do something in the hospital, because of my mom just always working that. She's always worked the job, because I think she's been with the hospital system for, I think it's been over 20 years, maybe 25. So she's been with the hospital system for a while.
Man, that's awesome. So, even just being at the front desk, that's the most important, that's the first impression of the whole
Very true.
So it's important, because if that's not welcoming, then like, dang, that could turn your whole, vibe off of, like, man, maybe I should find a different place that could take care of me, right? So, she plays an important part in what she does. But it's awesome to see that connection of your mom and you, and just how you were able to find your way in your niche. But man, Brittany, it's been awesome talking to you. I appreciate it. I love just getting to hear, your passion behind what you do, and all the learning curves that came with it, and just seeing you persevere. And so, we love you over here, and all we want is for you to keep, being the best version of yourself, continue to push the envelope as far as getting better, and never settle, right? That's one of the biggest things. But man, it was good to just chop it up with you and just sit down.
It was so good.
I'm gonna definitely.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep in contact, man. Whether it's a text message here and there, just to check up on you, see how you're doing. That's one of the things I'm working on. Just as you get older, you try to get better with communication, and just sending out little things as far as like a text, and just be like, just checking on you, make sure you're all right, and then that's all it gotta be. It don't gotta be a long conversation, but just checking up on you. So, thank you so much for taking your time out your day. I'm gonna let you get your Sunday back and enjoy. Enjoy with hubby. I don't know what y'all got going on today, but I'm pretty sure y'all lounging around, just kind of relaxing.
He is watching the game.
Oh yeah, my man. I'm about to go watch the game now.
Yeah, that's exactly. Ignore me and watching the game.
You know
That's
how
what
it
he's
go.
doing.
You know how it go. Yeah, you know how it is. But I need a recommendation though, right? So the
Okay.
how we keep the podcast moving is I take recommendations from my guests and just saying, hey, who's somebody I can sit down with that you feel is super dope. I don't have to know them. If I know them, that's cool. But if I don't, that's even better. Who can I sit down with? Who's super dope that you have in mind? Because then how you can help me is you can give me their Instagram information or maybe their cell phone, and then you can reach out and say, hey, this guy or mine or my cousin, he's going to reach out to you and just ask you if you want to be a part of the podcast. No funny business, but if you want to do it, you can just let him know. If not, it's cool too. It's no big deal. But I thought you'd be a perfect recommendation for his show and the purpose behind it. And if you could just reach out to them, and then I'll text them and just say, "Hey, this is Armand."
Yeah.
So who you got? Who you give me a name.
So I'm excited that you asked me this question. So I actually have a really good friend from high school. He's actually from Rock Hill.
Okay.
His name is Narius Allen.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you know him or not,
That
but
name sounds real familiar.
okay. So he is actually, and I might be getting the title wrong, so please forgive me. But I believe he's a production assistant, which basically means that he is working on the sets of TV series, movies, all that good stuff. He's actually living in Atlanta right now.
Yeah.
I know for a fact he worked on Step Up, has like a dance series with Neo on it. He helped with that. I believe he helped with WandaVision that was on Netflix. So I think he will be a perfect person for you to talk to.
Yeah.
This guy is he's such a sweet guy, very shy and humble, but at the same time, he's doing all these great things that I feel like people need to know about.
Yeah.
So I definitely would recommend him.
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen. I can't wait to sit down with him. Just to get some backside or just maybe he can cast me for something.
Yeah.
Hi, you just my photo. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I was just saying.
Not send him a little headshot so you could be an extra.
Yeah. I can say that line. You put me in there.
Yeah, but I'll reach out to him and give you his number so you guys can get in contact.
Okay, perfect. Well, listen, you have a good rest of your day. We're gonna end it like that. I appreciate you for hopping on. I love you. And you be
I love you too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
No
Bye.
problem.
They say, Peanut, you so cold. I want to thank you. All the bosses listen to Big Boss Talk. The people listening and watching. We love you over here. We're going to leave the same way we came in.